Welcome to this week's press conference with Gianni Pittella. At this time, different than in the other sessions, I hand over to our group president, Gianni Pittella.
Grazie.
Thank you very much and good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to start with two important, significant victories that we had today in the vote in the Parliament. I think this is an undeniable signal of the centrality of the citizens in the concerns of the Socialists and Democratic Party when it comes to environmental issues. The reduction of the presence of cadmium in fertilizers, that was an important vote, very much wanted by the citizens. The Socialists in particular have fought for that, for a considerable reduction of that content, giving a 6-year period to businesses to adjust to the new threshold. Another important vote was the Parliament's vote on glyphosate. This is another question which is something the public really care about, and we managed to take a very strong position on glyphosate. So within 5 years, glyphosate will disappear from production. These are things that really count because they have a direct effect on the life of our citizens. And the second point I'd like to mention is that we've also done our duty last week as a Parliament when it comes to two particular dossiers, which are also significant. The dossier on the revision of the rules on asylum requests, the so-called Dublin rule, and the revision of the directive on posted workers. So on both issues, the Parliament, well, I would say the committees within the Parliament, the lead committees, carried a large majority in the House. And for those like us who've seen the difficulties that had to be overcome, because over the years it's been very easy to offload on the countries of first arrival the burden of looking after the refugees, housing them, and all the other member states have said, oh, well, you carry on, it's your baby. But now the Parliament has had its say, and we expect that the Council should respond. Tusk was rather reticent today on this count. I would invite member states to respond to the Parliament, not just with their watches, as it were, because we need, I don't know, maybe a month, 3 months' time, we need there to be a positive response from the Council, because this is a parlous state of affairs and it needs to be removed. And then this Posting of Workers Directive is also an important matter. Here again, there are millions of workers who are receiving completely unacceptable low wages as compared to the wages of those in the host country where they're actually going to work. We affirm the principle that it should be equal work for equal pay in the same place, equal wages, basically, and this is a very important issue. It's all part of the social pillar which Juncker recalled today and which cannot just be a slogan for us. This has to lead to a series of measures. So this is one of the responses we've given, and yesterday evening apparently the Council voted on this, saying that it was open to movement on this, but wanting to achieve through negotiation an acceptance of all the most advanced positions of the Parliament on this. And then the third point is the whistleblowers. Today we held a vote on this, and there was a broad majority to ask the European Commission to present a legislative proposal to protect whistleblowers. This is a very clear, very strong political position taken by my group, which we've been working on through the committees. And it's also a response to the appalling killing of Daphne Caruana Galizia, who was a journalist in Malta, and she dedicated her entire life to revealing the trafficking in money, in mafia, recycling of money laundering. So there is a categorical imperative here to defend anyone who is working to shed light on this kind of criminal activity. And it's all to do with freedom of thought, freedom of expression, freedom to be an investigatory journalist. This has to be protected. Finally, sexual molestation, sexual harassment, and so on. I think we have to express total solidarity with anyone who has been a victim of sexual abuse or any kind of harassment at work, or any kind of coercion in that sense. I would say that my political group has for many years now been working on this. It's not that we suddenly have woken up to it now. For a long time we have had internal rules, measures within the group which are very structured and clear to rule out this virus which is so pernicious. And I should also recognize that the Parliament is one of the few parliaments in the world which has a special committee made up of representatives of the questors and the assistants and the staff to receive any complaints of such things happening by victims who say they've been the victims of sexual abuse at work, and the Parliament would then look into things, and they have been doing this for a long time. This is a very positive thing. So with the resolution that we've been working on with the other groups, and which we'll be voting on tomorrow and the day after, and with all the other instruments which can be brought into play, we would like to strengthen all this protection and prevention to fight this type of attitudes which are just absolutely heinous and unacceptable. Thank you.
Are there any questions? Please indicate your name. Ciao. Yes, you go first, and then David après.
Oui, c'est
Agence Europe. Now, this is a commercial question, really, a trade thing, but so if there are more political things, maybe people could go first.
David Carretta, Radio Radicale.
David Carretta, Radio Radicale. Two questions, President Pittella, if I may. The first one is on Malta. The leader of the EPP group, Manfred Weber, said the Commission should look into the state of the rule of law in Malta and isn't convinced that the Maltese authorities will allow the truth to be told on the murder of the journalist, and stressed that since Prime Minister Muscat was re-elected, all the investigations on the Panama papers have stopped. Would you share that request that the Commission should intervene on the rule of law in Malta? And can you comment on Austria, negotiations to form a coalition in Austria between Sebastian Kurz and the FPÖ? Thank you.
Grazie, David.
Thank you, David. Well, look, I have always been very consistent on this. Wherever wherever there's a government, basically, there has to be maximum transparency, whatever the political school of that government, especially in the case of the Maltese government. They showed immediately that they were keen to have international investigations into Daphne's murder. I remember the Prime Minister actually mentioned, why don't we bring in the FBI? So no problem there, as far as I can see. The worst thing that could happen is that there be manipulation of just an awful, tragic event which led to the death of a person. A person has been killed for political ends. And I would say to anyone who was contemplating doing such a thing, never do such a thing. Let's have investigations and let's see who's responsible. And all of us together, we need to work, the European Commission, Europol. We need to use every instrument there is out there and shed every light on this without any kind of exclusion of any tool at our disposal. But we shouldn't just be making political mileage out of this. I mean, that is irrelevant. We need to find out what the truth is. That's all. And once the truth is clear, then we will take our decisions. The second thing, which is happening in Austria, well, to be quite honest, I don't have the latest info on this. And it's not up to me to dictate what happens in Austria, because they are adults, they know what they're doing. All I can say is that the Grand Coalition has been broken, and I would think that at the European level, and I said this at the last opportunity, and there were a lot of socialist leaders present and young people, as far as I'm concerned, the line is a clear dialectic now between the right and the left. I would be against the formula of the Great Coalition, the Grand Coalition. The Austrians obviously have their right to decide, and I have no intention of interfering in what they do in their own house.
Are there other questions? Yes, please. On trade, you said? Okay.
Bonjour, Monsieur Pittella.
Good afternoon, Mr. Pittella. Yes, a question on international trade. This week, the Parliament's going to adopt the recommendations on the free trade agreements with Australia and New Zealand. Quite apart from the socialist groups' considerations on environmental protection and so on, there are some dangers to European agriculture involved in those agreements. Do you think, does your group think that the Commission pursuing these free trade agreements, hook, line and sinker, is that a good thing? And what's your attitude, you and your group? Do you think there could be exclusions of certain products and not just tariff barriers? Well, I'm just going to have a meeting this afternoon with my colleagues from the International Trade Committee this afternoon, and we will be exploring these matters. As a general line, the socialist policy is this: we will not vote for trade agreements, international trade agreements, if the private courts aren't removed. The formula, the ISDS clause, you all know about that, which we refer to as non-public courts or private courts. So we need that removed, and we need strong rules on dumping, social dumping and environmental dumping. Those are the conditions as far as we're concerned. And then there is also the human rights issue. These are the conditions. So as I say, in an hour's time, I'll be having a meeting with the colleagues from the International Trade Committee, but that is the basic line of the Socialist Group.
Est-ce qu'il y a d'autres questions?
Any other questions?
Non. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good week.